What is up, guys? It's a girl here, Paul Maverick, and Puneet Chaudhary requested that I watch this film. And it is called, I know I'm going to butcher the name, it is called Anniyan. Anniyan, okay? And believe it or not, it is roughly translated to Strangler. Now, this movie is about our main character, our protagonist, Amibi, who is a law-abiding lawyer, and he just so happens to suffer dissociative split personality, also known as multiple personality disorder. So our story goes is Amibi is a lawyer, law-abiding lawyer, and things of that nature. He has a friend named Chari, who happens to be a police officer. Now, the thing of it is, he is secretly in love. Amibi is secretly in love with this girl named Nandini, and he doesn't tell her because he's afraid of rejection. So when this year festival comes around, he wants to change it. He goes, you know what? I'm going to take a chance. And his friend Chari goes with him. Lo and behold, he confesses her feelings towards her, and she rejects him. Basically because he's very nitpicky and overbearing, and she doesn't like that. Well, because of that rejection, all of a sudden he develops a personality called Remo, which is like a fashionist. And unbeknownst to Nadini, where she falls in love with Remy, that is actually Amibi. And in the process, the funny part was it's like The Equalizer, The Crow, and the movie Split somehow all got together, was probably mixing drinks and things like that, and thus came Anniyan, because Anniyan just so happens to be one of the split personalities. And the reason why I compared this to The Equalizer, because Anniyan is a vigilante who takes the form of like a Grim Reaper. You know, the whole Grim Reaper grade up, and he is going to punish those who do wrong by the ways of this, I think it was Gandhi, the punishment scribe, of what he said. I can't remember the name of this person. Obviously, he was some religious figure and things like that, and he punishes them by how the guy would punish. I think it may have been Gandhi. I could absolutely be wrong. Like I said, I don't remember. I can't remember the person's name. But I do know that he makes a website for those who did wrong. He makes a website so that people can tell him, hey, this person did, almost like The Equalizer. Whenever people needed help, they would send, they would call for help from The Equalizer. And that's exactly what he did. During this time, he ends up killing a contractor who happens to be the brother of a superintendent police officer named I know I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Barap Hakur. Let's call him Barap. Let's call him P. So P wants to go after this person. Wants to go after Anniyan. Now, how he sort of almost gets his clutches on him is when, so Remo and Nadian, they go on a date, and somehow the marriage is set. Well, like I said, little does she know it's Amibi. So Amibi comes to and goes with her to the office because he was trying to get a plot of land for the dowry. So, that's traditional in Indian culture to pay for the dowry. And she decides to sort of underprice the land to avoid a sort of stamp tax, something like that. And seeing that this is like a sort of trying to, find a loophole in the system, trying not to do right, Amibi says, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry, I'm not part of it. And then Anniyan comes to play to punish her, tries to kill her. In the process, she calls out Amibi. And Amibi comes back. He falls unconscious. He panics, loses consciousness, and there he is basically taken to a psychiatric hospital where where he has a psychological workup, a psychological test through a psychiatrist. Come to find out, these split personalities come to play because our boy had witnessed his sister die years ago. He witnessed that, and it sort of has caused, sort of like, I should have done something, kind of like unresolved issues. So the psychiatrist asks, sort of comes to the conclusion that, and sort of tells, the girl, hey, Remo will disappear when you reciprocate your feelings to Amibi, not Remo. And then Anniyan will leave when society changes their ways. So obviously, something like these, there's a reason, for example, the reason why these personalities are the way they are is because, Amibi is a lawyer, and obviously he's law binding. He wants to do something about it, but he has to follow the law binding. Anniyan thinks like, no, I'm going to take the law in my hands and I'm going to be a vigilante. That's where that comes in, the wanting to do more, wanting society to change, things like that. Remo is like, basically, Nandini did not want Amibi, but she wanted Remo because he was charismatic, he wasn't overbearing, things like that. Well, she eventually falls in love with our dude, Amibi, and Remo goes away. Anniyan comes out at the stadium and basically says why he did the crimes in the way that he did. There was a reason, rationality. He gets praise and like criticism. Now, P tries to arrest him, but he escapes. Now, as this continues, Amibi is asked to do Amibi is arrested, and he is to do a polygraph test, a lie detector test, which ends up proving his innocence. Now, and it just so happens Char is also investigating the murders too, but he kind of backs up a bit. Well, seeing that, our boy is innocent, P is not taking it very well. So he tells everyone to leave the interrogation room. He starts beating on Amibi, then puts him in a water tank. And then, he's begging for his life. He's begging like, no, no, no. And he starts to go cool. Kind of trying to kill him, trying to do stuff. Since this near-death experience is triggering Anniyan, he breaks out and starts to beat up. In the process, you have Anniyan beating up, but you have Amibi begging for his life. And then, he goes, now coming to, almost it seems like they're fighting each other, from the inside out. Well, he gets put in a court trial, and the psychiatrist named V, we're going to call him V, I can't pronounce his name for the life of me. V goes and tells him his mental condition. He has split personality disorder, this and this, and his pal, Chari, comes out and has secretly recorded audio recordings and video of P beating the crap out of him. So P gets arrested, and due to the fact that there is more proof that the other personality did what they did rather than our main protagonist, he's acquitted. However, he's going to be put into a facility until these personality is put in check, basically cured. Well, 2 years have passed, and our boy and his girl get married. They go on a trip. During this trip, he sees the man who was responsible for his sister's death. And kills him. Because that triggers Anniyan to come back. Kills him. And goes back to Anniyan. So, what's going on? He was on nothing. Things like that. Hides it from her. It turns out that the personalities are not gone. Then he's not cured. He has somehow managed to blend, sort of find a balance to blend it, blend his personalities rather than eradicate them. So it seems like, now this could be me. Basically, when people have these personalities, it's a way to protect themselves from the past trauma. So, but almost like an immune system for the head, for the psychology. Now, some people would say, oh, demons, things like that. Others would say, perhaps it's, untold, unfinished business with inside, and then you have like the due to the responses of the brain, it causes an abnormal chemical balance and a chemical imbalance. There's a lot of reasons why it could split personalities could be in, from religious reasons to psychological to one of one's own soul. Could be it. What? We don't know. Some of us are able to divide these feelings and thoughts and rationalize them and go, okay, whatever. Others sort of manifest these kind of things. I don't know. All I know is trauma can do crazy stuff. And some of us are able to take the bull by the horn and face it. Others are not. Others are still trying to work baby steps to work at that trauma. Now, although, perhaps rejection and all this stuff came out to play. Not saying that he encouraged it. It was just one of those things, like it just happened, changes in his life, the rejection, things like that, trying to do the right thing, we all have inner demons. And so I think these personalities were his inner demons because of the guilt he had for his sister, That's just me. But I'm gonna give this movie a 7. I'm gonna rate it a 7, Panette. Like I said, this was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of rooting for Anniyan. I was really like, oh man, I don't know why. I guess I did like the story, because stories like these with this, when you're doing a mental condition, it's very hard to do it justice. Anything from mental conditions, mental disability like autism, it has to be done correctly. It has to be depicted correctly. Like, for example, Max and Mary is a good example of mental disability. Max was a middle-aged gentleman who lived in New York. And over the years, you see him and this little girl blossom because they were pen pals. He calls himself an Aspie because he suffers from Asperger's syndrome. And there was another movie, I Am Khan. Yes, I Am Khan, because he also has, I'm not going to say suffer, but he also has Asperger's too. And almost every Asperger, well, not all those who has Asperger's syndrome are the same. They're not going to have the same thing. Not all people who are of the spectrum are the same. But these characters have said that they do take things rather literal. They take things both rational and literal. They have to, they have anxiety when trying something new. So this was very important because it shows what's different. They can't read people's expressions. They can't read people. Like I said, if they take things literal. So, for example, if someone says, make this your home or make yourself at home, it's like, this is not my home. How can I make myself at home when it's not my home? Or please take a seat. They think actually literally take the seat instead of sit down, But split personality disorder, this is something that, yes, it was exaggerated, but then again, you have the idea of what was what part symbolized what. And not many movies or shows do that with what personality symbolized what. One personality could be more destructive because it's like, destructive behavior, something happened. Others would be sort of like the nice, things like that. So each personality symbolized, stuff like that. So for example, Anniyan, maybe was a law-abiding citizen. He wanted to take certain stuff in his own hands, but he went by the book. And Neon's the exact opposite, kind of doing what Amiibi cannot do. He wants to do it, but he cannot do it because he is restricted. And Neon's got no strings on him, That's what he thought. Remo's the exact opposite of Amiibi. Remo is charismatic, he's fashionist, he knows, laid back. Amiibi's not. So there's a reason for what one's more loose and chill, the other one's more like I'm taking it in my own hands if I have to get my hands dirty. So things like that. Like I said, I'm gonna give this an 8. Like I said, it had to be exaggerated. Not every person who has multiple personality disorder, MPD, are created equal. It could be maybe it all of a sudden happened, like there was like a crack in their psyche, or maybe they did see trauma. Was it trauma within the household? Was it trauma, outside, seeing something that they didn't want to see, that they were wrong place, wrong time? No one knows. So yes, they had to be exaggerated because it's a story. It has to be. It was almost like that movie, Me and Irene, with Jim Carrey. That movie was exaggerated because it was a comedy. This one is more of an action psychological thriller. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to give it an 8. Completely different. Yet, like I said, I was rooting for the guy. And yeah, so Puneet, thank you so much for this record. I really did this request. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it a lot. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. I hope you guys will have a wonderful day, and be safe there. Okay, guys. Bye.